We look at business through 6 very primary steps, and it's through a very structured methodology, and we work through that every single business to get the business to where it can work without the owner. That's when we know we have a true business, is when it can work without the owner. And when you look at a car, as an example, cars, whether $35,000 cars or $100,000 cars, depending on where the car's coming from, is built in the same chassis. The question becomes, which one would you rather have? $35,000 car, $100,000, same chassis. Business is no different. And so we look at the business chassis and how to look at it through these 6 steps, and it's mastery, niche, which is what we're going to talk about today, leverage, systems in your business, team, synergy, and results. We look through these 6 steps to get you a business that can work without you.
Awesome. Okay, so that's the ultimate goal, right? But you need to take all these steps that we're about to discuss to get there, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, cool. So it's always, as with almost anything that's worthwhile, it's a step-by-step process. And something that we talked about yesterday with what we're about to go over, it's about incremental change. It's not about making this huge transformation overnight and expecting 200% profit increase. That's not realistic. But what I love about what you show us is a realistic way to grow your business incrementally, so you can actually see that profit grow. It really is one of my favorite seminars I've seen here in Austin, specifically about small businesses. So without further ado, let's get into it, and then we'll have the conversation between you guys, Michael and Damon, and I will be your moderator. So if you have any questions, please post it on our Austin Focus Facebook page video, and we'll make sure to get the answer to you. So let's get started.
I appreciate that. So as I mentioned, this is what we're going to walk through today is in the niche area of your business, and it's the second step, really, of how to build a business that works without you. Most businesses, when they look at marketing, the marketing of your business, it's an expense. It's classified as an expense. And for most businesses, it is. For most businesses, they're not test and measuring to understand 3 critical areas of marketing. What's your cost per lead? What's your cost per acquisition? And what's your lifetime value of a customer or client or guest, depending on your business and how you classify your customers. So once we know those 3 things, what we actually do is we can understand how to transition marketing from an expense into an investment. When somebody puts money into an investment, why do they call it an investment? They call it that because they know when they get the return, it's going to be higher than what they put into it. Marketing should be no different. Every dollar put into marketing, you should be getting more dollars back. And that's what we look at. Now, in tandem with that, we look at what we call the 5 ways, which is what we're going to discuss today.
Awesome. Cool. So with that marketing, real quick, I want to get into that. I love the idea that it's a perspective thing. If you perceive it as an investment, you're expecting a return. You're going to work for that return. If you see it as an expense, when I write off expenses, I write them off because they're gone. I don't expect to see them again. My Xbox One is an expense. It's not an investment, right? So, maybe I was trying to be pro for a minute, but I really like that perspective. Damon, is there anything, in terms of our business services as far as digital marketing goes, can you say anything about what we can help provide small business owners when it comes to having an investment in marketing versus just thinking you're throwing money away to get something out,
I would definitely say we're pretty big on the needing a website. There's so many different forms of the marketing you can do. The email blasting campaigns, the social media campaigns.
There's a lot.
There's a lot,
right? One of my favorite ones is actually SEO optimization. It's huge.
It's huge.
Actually, our next guest, I'm not trying to plug anything yet, but our next guest is from BigCommerce, which is an e-commerce company, and they talk very strongly about strong SEO. It's essentially your cheapest way to drive traffic to your website. Right. And if you're not doing that, at least, you're missing out on something big. Right. But that's just a side note, because there's always side notes when you're a small business owner. So let's get back on track and start talking about the first way to increase your business profit.
Perfect. The very first thing we look at, I'm just going to draw it up here, is lead generation. The very first thing we're looking at is next thing we're going to look at is your conversion rate. So really, what qualified leads are, that's your marketing, and your conversion rate, that's sales. What that's going to give us, that's going to give us the number of customers that you have in your life. Now we have customers. The very next thing we're going to look at is how often they spend money with you. So we're going to look at the average number of transactions. Average number of transactions. And then we're going to look at the average dollar per sale. So how often are they spending money with you? And the next thing is how much are they spending? What that provides, that gives us revenue. Then we look at your margin. That gives you profit. So you look at the five right here: qualified leads, conversion rate, average number of transactions, average dollar per sale, margin. These are the 5 ways. Because what we see in customers' revenue and profit, they're all the outputs. They're the results of other things. So, for the purpose of our example today, we're going to look at, we had 4,000 leads, 4,000 qualified leads within a year. We're going to look at a 12-month period, 4,000 potential customers. 4,000. Let's say your conversion rate is 25%. Obtainable for most businesses, 25%.
Would you say that's a good goal to have, 25%, or would you aim for higher? I mean, you always aim for higher, but...
Always aim for higher. It depends on the industry.
Okay.
It really depends on the industry yeah, exactly. Where you're in your location, there's a variety of things that go into that.
That's true, that makes sense.
So if you have 4,000 leads and you have a 25% conversion rate, what does that do for the number of customers you have within a year? It gives you 1,000.
This is why we're writing it down. There's a lot of numbers.
So then we look at customers and we look at, okay, how often are they spending money with you? So that could be, you may have some that are spending money with you once, you could have some that are spending money with you 10 times a year. We're looking at just the average. On average, with all of your customers, and there's a little bit of math that goes into that, on average, how much are they, how often are they spending with you? Let's say, for the purpose of the example, twice. 2 times. Then we're going to go, okay, cool. So they're spending money with you twice a year. On average, how much are they spending? They may spend $50 one purchase, they may spend $3,000 on the next. But on average, with your customers, how much money on average are they spending with you? Let's say $1,000. That gets us revenue. Here's what happens here is there's a little multiplier right there, equal here. Multiply, equal. We have 1,000 customers, on average spending money with you twice a year. On average spending $1,000 per transaction. That gives you revenue. Any guesses what that revenue would be? 1,000 times 2 times 1,000. $2 million.
It's a good number.
It's a great number. So then we take that $2 million and we say, okay, now your profit margin is 25%. What does that do for our profit? We end up at the end of the year $500,000 in profit. Qualified leads, conversion rate, 50 customers. Customers by the average number of transactions, average dollar per sale, it's revenue. Revenue by your profit margin gets you your profit. Good so far.
So that's your base formula, basically.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yes. So this is where it gets really interesting. This is where we look on the growth chassis of your business and how to drastically increase all of this. Fair enough?
Yeah, all right, do it.
So, the next year. And over the next 12 months, we are focused on all 5 of these areas. Most businesses we can look at and go, minimum 10% increase in. Again, going back to what you mentioned earlier, we're not looking at drastic changes, we're looking at incremental changes. So some may say, yeah, our leads could increase by 400%, or by 200%, or by 50%. We're gonna go 10% for now, just looking at incremental change. So we had 4,000 leads last year, right? We're gonna spend the next 12 months on 2 to 3 strategies on how to increase those leads. So we go from 4,000 to 4,400. 10% increase. Nothing drastic here. There are a handful of strategies we look at. We have over 80 of them. If I were just to choose one, or 2 even, getting qualified leads for Office Depot, you could say this is a good example of that.
Right.
You could say this flagship store that we are here in downtown Austin is an example of that.
Right.
So we look at a handful of strategies, and we're going to implement 2 or 3 within a 12-month period. We're going to test and measure to understand what, going back to turning marketing and whatnot into an investment versus an expense. We're going to test and measure along the way. We increase by 10%. So over the course of a year, we got an extra 400 leads. That's not drastic change, that's incremental change. Right. The next thing we look at is conversion rate. So we had a 25% conversion rate. We look to increase that by 10%. So 10% of a 10% incremental change to 25 isn't 25 to 35%. It's what's 10% of 25? 2.5. So we increased from 25% just to 27.5.
That's a really small number.
Yeah.
Fair.
It's fair, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Most businesses could see.
That's an easy goal usually to grow. Yeah.
Right? That's 27.5. Now, looking at a couple strategies here. There are some fun ones. There are some easy ones. We look at, one of the great ways to look at it is what makes you unique. What truly makes you unique. Not just customer service, what truly makes you unique.
David, what makes it unique?
With our business services, then I would definitely say it's the people who present those business services. Because not every individual is different. Everyone has a different sales tactic, the way that they build their rapport and relationship with the client or customer.
Awesome. So we look at 2 to 3 strategies in conversion rate, how to implement into your business to increase that 10%. So what does that do for us now? So beforehand, we were at, do you remember how many customers we had before?
4,000?
So now, with our updated, we're a little over 1,200. So, I apologize for my writing. Not the greatest. So, incremental changes, we went from 1,000 customers to a little over 1,200. That's a 21% increase in your customers, just by looking at these incremental changes. Next thing we look at, average number of transactions. So, beforehand, we had an average of 2. We look to increase that by 10%. That gets us to 2.2. So 1 out of every 10 or so is going to make up their purchase. Incremental change. Nothing drastic. Incremental change. We have a handful of strategies on average number of transactions. The very easiest way, you should segment your customers into a handful of buckets, non-converted, non-repeat, and repeat, things like that. The easiest way to increase that number, ask them back. How often are you asking your customers back?
Right.
There are 70 other strategies that we look at. That's just one. And so that may be one you're already doing. We look at implementing 2 or 3 others.
I'd love to include that is like there's no additional cost to asking someone to come back. maybe you're paying an extra 5 seconds for someone to stay on the floor to say that. But at the end of the day, that's not really a big investment, a monetary investment. It's just an investment of your people. You know, you want to make sure they're motivated to want them to come back.
We should be asking them back naturally anyways, right?
Minimum once a quarter.
Yeah,
Minimum.
that's fair.
Once every 90 days.
Yeah. I can see it. I definitely can see it.
The next thing we look at, average dollar per transaction. So beforehand, we had $1,000 average dollar. Right. 10% increase on this number gets us to 1,100. Incremental change. From 1,000, 10% increase. And if these numbers are too high for your business, just remove the zero.
Yeah.
So, instead of $100, it's 110. So we go from 1,000. McDonald's became infamous for their average dollar per sale strategy by asking one simple question at the end of every order. Do you know what that question was?
What was that?
Would you like fries with that? Now, do you want to supersize it?
Right.
One simple question at the end of every sale to increase it incrementally.
Build that deal.
Times 1,000, hundreds of thousands of customers turns into a nice little chunk of change. So we look at a handful of strategies here. We look at, one great one is checklists. So if someone walks in here and they're like, I just got a new office, I need some office furniture, what would be your checklist for that person?
Stationary products, floor mats, chairs, everything to build that desk area, that office area for you.
Absolutely.
And then things that could be linked to that, right? So if they have an office, they need some smart devices for their office, or they need to network their new small office, and we have tech services or even IT services to help you set up and monitor your network. So basically, if you know, here's what I'm interpreting is if you know your customer in and out and everything that they could possibly want for this little adventure they're about to partake in, you have a list of what those things are in your mind, then you know your customer.
Right.
You don't have to make assumptions. You don't have to push a product or a service. They already want that product or the service. They may not know that, but you can show them that you have it, and then let them make that decision. That's kind of what I took away from it.
Or just simply ask.
Or ask, like in step 3.
Right. And in our 6 steps of building a business, this is step 2, niche. The very next one is leverage, create systems. So then you take these checklists and then you create systems for your team to make sure that everyone's on the same page, that they have the process of how to ask the questions, how to present that to the customer. Would you like fries with that question?
Right.
So that's just 1 or 2 strategies. We look at an abundant number of strategies. What's best for your business? That may not be applicable to you. So we look at what's applicable for your business in this moment, what has worked, what has not worked. And we look to increase these by 10%. Again, incremental change.
Right.
So from 1,000 to 1,100.
Can I interject real quick? So let's say the fries with that example, it doesn't apply. Let's say, it offers people who might say you want some paper with that, but if not, that'd be a terrible joke. I'm sorry, guys. What would be another good example? I'm just trying to brainstorm and think. If it's not food based, let's say, and it's
Office space.
Office space. What would you say that's similar to? Would you like fries with that?
So a realtor walks in here and they have a new office. And you notice that maybe they're the ones getting the office furniture. Do you need business cards?
That's a good one, actually, yeah.
Right there.
Simple. And we do provide business cards. We can get those done.
Same day.
Same day.
Yeah, it's
Yes,
pretty
sir.
cool.
The print center here.
Awesome. Thank you. I just wanted to get it outside of because I think people think, oh man, I don't have some side order I could add to something, so I just wanted to give another idea. But yes, business cards is a great one.
Yes.
Good question.
Yeah.
And if you're a service-based industry, it's what's the next service that they might need.
Right.
So there's a variety of ways to approach it. That's just one strategy that we look at. That gets us now to revenue. So our revenue before was $2 million. Now we look at, with these 10% increases from 2 to 2.2, from 1,000 to 1,100, what does that do to our profit? over 2.9 million. 2,928,200. So by increasing each of these by 10%, you just got yourself an extra $900,000 in revenue, which is a 46% increase.
Wow.
And again, if 1,000 or 1,100 is too big, you use that decimal, then you go from 200,000 to 290,000.
Right.
Still $90,000 increase, 46% increase in your business.
Right.
And you've
Incremental
only,
change.
only made 10% changes along the way.
Right, right. So we're looking at this. And then what's awesome is, then we look at the next year. What are the next 2 or 3 strategies in each of these areas that we can look to test and measure along the way? So we go from 2 to 2.9. Now we look at margin. So margin before was 25%. Our new margin increased by 10% is 27.5. Again, we look at a handful of strategies here. One of the easiest ones, and what we have found through our own firm is that business owners are the most hesitant on this one strategy than even the customers. Increase your profit or increase your prices. Increase your prices by 10%. Guess what happens? You increase your margin by 10%.
Right.
That's the easiest way to go. We actually have a whole system that kind of walks business owners through. When you discount, let's say your current margin is 20% and you discount it by 10% for a sale. It walks you through how much increase in business you have to do to get back to your break-even point.
Right.
On the flip side of that, we look at what would happen if you increase your prices by 10%. And how much you would actually have to lose in business to get back down to that break-even point. Meaning, I increase my prices by 10%, I'd actually have to lose X number of business in order to actually not make more of a profit. So the question becomes, is if you increase your prices, would you actually lose that number of potential customers? Yeah, I mean, and that's just a conversation we have. And again, that's just one strategy. We look at 2 to 3 different strategies on margin and how to really increase that, just incrementally.
How do you come up with that strategy, so to say, per business? Is it due to certain businesses you come up with a different strategy for, or do you run each strategy for every business?
It's very bespoke. It's very tailored to the business.
Okay.
So we're definitely looking at what is your business, what is your industry, what's your market, what have you done in the past, where do you currently stand. I mean, we get real detailed with our business owners,
Okay.
and it's very much tailored to where they're at.
It's custom form.
Exactly. Yeah, there's no cookie cutter, just basic template.
Okay.
But yeah, what we look at is implementing 2 to 3 strategies. What those are and how we implement them are very different across industries, across businesses.
Okay. What works for one might not work for the other.
Correct, absolutely. And so we're working through that consistently.
And that's actually something that we like doing with our business owners as well. It's not a blanket solution for every business owner. Just like a human being, every business owner is unique, like a millennial snowflake, if you will. I think that's something that consumers have learned recently. Oh, not recently, but as of late. We had our biz chats about online storytelling, and we talked about how that blanket sales tactic, that pushing a sale is not always going to work like it may have used to. That's why we talk about storytelling. It's a way to connect with your audience, with potential customers. It's a way to build trust and a community. Kind of what we're doing with our biz chat. We're trying to build a community. We're trying to build trust. We're not trying to force anything on you. We just want to teach and we want to learn. And in my opinion, we've been doing that. I just learned a bunch on here. I'm going to have to ask to photocopy some of that stuff in our DIY center over there. I want to put this on my wall so I can start my business and be like, all right, 10% today, 10%.
Right.
But no, thank you, Michael. That was very clear. I was wondering if anybody out there had any questions on the Office program. We are here to answer anything. It's a Facebook Live Q&A. So,
Real quick though.
oh yeah, absolutely.
Real quick. We talked about test and measuring along the way, making sure that you understand where you're at, what's working, what's not working. We want to create SMART goals. So SMART stands for specific, measurable, achievable, result-oriented with a time frame. So along the way, we're not just going, well, what do we think we can do? No, we want to set very clear SMART goals. And if it's for your team, they're smarter goals because the extra E and R stands for encourage and reward. What gets measured will get done. What gets rewarded will get done again. So when we look at this, our profit at the end of the day was $500,000, right? When we did this before, we ended up with a profit of about $500,000. We created a forecast and what's our goal for profit the following year, revenue, all this, right? We're going through this. We would actually say, so when you do the math here, 2.9 times your new margin actually gives you a little over 800,000. What is that? That's a 61% increase year to year. 61% increase. I mean, I'm not sure I know any business owner who would not want a 61% increase in their profit. I mean, it's like 805 and some change in profit. And so we want to make sure that we're creating smart goals along the way to know that we are accomplishing, that it's measurable, achievable, that it's within the year time frame or the month or whatever what it may be. So we are continually testing and measuring along the way.
Awesome. Okay, cool. Actually, I just wrote an article on Office Depot, www.officeDepot.com, and we actually kind of touch on some of that stuff. I don't know if it's published yet, so I'm actually not going to advertise it now and talk about it. But I just think that's a really great idea to build on something, rather than rest on your laurels or just. Actually, I do have a question now. I think about it. When you build upon, let's say you did this, you implemented this strategy last year, and this is your new year, and you're starting your SMART goals, and you already did it from 25 to 27.5%. So when you add 10%, you start back. Like, how do you add 10% to 27.5%? That's my question.
It depends really on the business, because some businesses, as an example, if their current conversion rate is 35%, and we know based on your industry that the best in your industry are hitting around 40 to 45%, then we look at how do we close that gap. Now, if in your industry the best margin is 45% and you're at 44, then we're gonna go, okay, where can we increase other areas? One of the easiest one is the average dollar per sale. That and the average number of transactions are when margin is kind of capped out, those are the two easiest ways to increase, because you already have people walking into your store. They're already on your website. They're already calling your team. Now it's just a matter of how do we leverage that in a different way. So yeah, so we increase it by 10%. Great. What does it look like for the next year? It may not look like 10% the second year. It may look like 5% the next year. But other areas may look like 20% next year.
Right.
We have some of our clients who, when we first started working with them, they had no marketing. So it was really easy to drastically increase the number of qualified leads that they were seeing on a week-to-week basis.
Just by putting that marketing out there.
Right. So they were doing business successfully with nothing. And then and candidly, marketing should be like a water faucet. Like a water faucet. Meaning, when you need more business, you turn it on. When you don't, you turn it off. Or maybe you just adjust it a little bit, so you have less.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
So marketing, when done correctly, is like a water faucet, where it's just a matter of what does our business need right now, and then okay, let's implement it. Or no, maybe we need to draw back, because you also don't want to grow too quickly as a business.
Right. You want to scale accordingly.
Exactly.
Yes.
So we want to make sure that while you could maybe see a ginormous change in your business, could your business handle that? One of the first questions I'll ask some of our clients is, great, we know that we can turn this marketing faucet on. Now, how many more customers can you actually take on right now? With the current systems, the current team, the current structure, current operations and finances, what can you actually take on? Because what we don't want to do is put you in such a bad situation where now you start to lose customer service, you start getting bad reviews, you can't handle the growth that you're taking on. We want to make sure that it's very structured, and we really create a very detailed action plan to make sure that those kind of things don't take place.
And that would be technically your business growing too fast out of control.
Absolutely.
Right, and a great way to help combat, and there are a lot of ways to combat's a weird word, but there are a lot of ways to go, to fight against scaling too fast. And I have friends who had their own businesses who were like, I just picked up 7 clients this month. It's like, you already have 5, and you're by yourself. So now you have 12. They lost 6 of them 2 months later. You know, so I mean, yes, I think it's a great thing to think about before you decide, like, I have this golden idea, but can you handle that idea?
Right.
Can your team handle it if you have a team? And I think that's really important and something that I love talking to small business owners about and entrepreneurs is that you shouldn't be your entire team.
No.
That won't work. It might work temporarily, it might work a little bit, but you're gonna burn out. You're a human being. You're not a robot. And that's kind of also why we like doing these chats, because, hey, we're other human beings who probably work too hard at some point in our life, realizing working hard and working smart are very different ideas.
Yes, sir.
And it's about focusing on what you're really good at and letting the people who are really good at what you need done focus on it for you.
You also don't want to own a job. You want to own a business.
Oh, okay. I like that. Okay, please expand on that one.
When I opened my first business, almost a decade ago now, I realized I was the one doing everything. I owned a job. All I had given myself was the ability to work 80 hours for myself, so I didn't have to work 40 hours for somebody else. I wanted to own a business, and that's what we do with our clients now. We walk them through how to build a business that works without them, because most of the time, especially those who are looking for growth, they don't want to own a job. They want to own a business,
Right.
and so that's what we do.
I kind of want to get that bumper sticker.
Right.
I want to own my business. Yeah. That's very cool. Michael, thank you so much for
My
taking the
pleasure.
time to
Michael.
teach us, to teach them, to teach everyone. You make sure if anyone had any questions. Not yet, but we will continue to roll, and I will certainly tag you when someone does ask you a question on
Please
our
do.
Facebook page.
Absolutely.
Certainly tag Dr. Michael Hartley. Michael, where can we find some of your materials, and where can we find you next in Austin?
Absolutely. Online, so through our social channels, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn. Our next complimentary workshop is going to be at Great Hills Country Club next Wednesday, actually.
Next Wednesday.
Yes, I host 1 or 2 a month, complimentary. My passion is to help others. So whether they become clients or not is irrelevant to me. I really want to give back to the community here in Austin, and so we host these complimentary workshops once or twice a month. And so that's a great way to get more detail on this and more on the holistic view of how to build a business.
Very cool. And we were actually just talking about you maybe hosting one here.
Yes.
At this space here in downtown Austin at 907 West 5th Street. We will certainly keep you posted if and when he does that. We're hoping we can start a circuit of classes. Hartley, our last speaker, is also going to be coming in August to do a class about negotiating. So come in August here for negotiation classes and how to grow your profits in general, and also how to just build a business that doesn't own your own business, don't own your job, right? So I actually really like that line. I'm going to sign off. Thank you so much. I'm Jason Eisenberg, the moderator here. And if you want to tune in to our next Focus Chat, it will be next Friday, July 27th, 11 a.m. Central Time. We will be doing a Facebook Live with the Grommet CEO, Jules Thierry. Actually, the Grommet is a company that helps local makers become small business owners. It's actually brilliant, and we're very excited to have that following Dr. Michael Hartley, who just gave us one heck of a math lesson, and I can't wait to laminate this stuff and put it on my wall. I'm not even joking. Damon, what else can, if you have any other questions, feel free to ask us on Facebook Live. Damon is here in our downtown flagship station to help you with any of your small business needs. And we have essentially a Damon in every Office Depot to help with your small business needs. They are business professionals. They can help you and direct you to where you need to go as far as finding your strategy to get there, to make your $800,000 more a year by making a 10% incremental change in each step. Thank you again. Anything else, guys?
Please come see us and take care of all your legal, all your marketing, and everything back office.
Absolutely. And stay cool out there because it's about to be 107 degrees. Signing off. Have a great weekend, everybody. And don't forget, next Depot Biz Chats is next Friday at 11 a.m.
Thank you.
Bye, guys. Right here. We're still live. Watch.